It's a great day to be a coyote. Welcome, Coyote Nation, to another episode of Back to Pack Podcast, where we are going to be bringing you all of your favorite games, memories, and of course, discussion with our fellow coyotes. As a disclaimer, we have no affiliation to the University of South Dakota. This is a podcast ran by fans for fans. The ideas and comments do not represent the university. Our opinions are our own. Be sure to find us on Twitter at BackToPackSD. With that being said, let's jump in. What's going on, Grant?
How we doing, Jake?
You know what? I woke up after Saturday. The sun came up. Sky's still there. We're still rolling.
Right. I mean, we got a good old, I mean, we were accustomed to 40 to 17, 42 to 10, but we got a classic, good old fashioned, slobber knocker of a Missouri Valley football game.
Yep,
And
exactly.
yeah, that made the blood pressure raise a little bit more than the previous games, no doubt about it. But a win's a
Um,
win.
I after or during that game, I will say, I started having some current concerns about you and Mitch in our group chat.
I did not like the start. The start did not look good. I was cranky in the basement. I'll say that.
Yes. Yep. I was too, but God, I felt like I needed to hoist you guys up as much as
You did. You had to,
as
you had
the
to, you
German
had to talk us
Coyotes.
back from the ledge a little bit after that first quarter, and I think there's a lot of Yote fans in the same seat. Like I said, especially based off of what we've seen this year, it's usually
I
been
was different.
non-competitive. So, which I think is actually good, right? I think it's
Yeah.
good for a team to get their teeth kicked in a little bit and show the resiliency and
Mhm.
ultimately came back and most importantly got the monkey off the back, got the Youngstown road win. I mean, that's
I,
finally way
exactly.
overdue.
I think that's kind of where we should start at on this. 0-6 going into the Ice Castle, which,
Mhm.
first of all, that is the coolest name for a stadium I've ever heard, especially how it, works with the Penguins and whatnot.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
But yeah, Ice Castle, that's awesome. The one thing I could go without, though, if I never hear it again, I'll be happy. The steam whistle.
Yeah.
That was the most annoying thing I have ever heard in my life.
So I feel like I've watched them play on TV plenty of times at Youngstown. I don't ever remember the steam whistle. I don't know if that's new or if it just
Yeah.
never quite made it to TV before, but yes, I also that was something I was like, and maybe it's because I was frustrated for, a good portion
It
of the
stands
game, and
out
then
more.
it stands out, right? Yeah, but
Well,
the steam whistle was strange. But more
you're a
power to him.
Nebraska fan. You absolutely hate Boomer Sooner as much as I do. And how much do you ever hear that playing Oklahoma? It felt the exact same.
Right, exactly. I was just gonna say, it's exactly right. It's
But
for anybody who traveled to Wisconsin, we still joke about it, the group that went, it's the first and 10 Wisconsin. Heard it about 15 times during the game and it just drives you nuts
uh,
after a while.
yep, every stadium's got their mannerisms that opposing fans hate.
Hmm.
You hate it even more when the game is not comfortable.
No, and we
You
got
find everything to
un yeah, we got uncomfortable awfully quick in Youngstown,
yes.
uh, which gave us a little, gives you a little bit of flashbacks of years past of no victories at the Ice Castle. So, but
Hmm.
but
And go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, but obviously we know the end result was a good thing. But yeah, that first quarter
Yeah,
was tough. That was a tough quarter of football to watch.
yeah, exactly. And I want to take a moment to kind of compare two programs in the sense of Murray State and Youngstown State. It kind of felt like they're both in the similar trajectory. One's falling down and one's trying to figure out how to get out of the basement.
Hmm.
You can really see what a quality culture can do to a program, even with a lack of talent.
Hmm.
And I don't think there's a ton of talent truly on the Youngstown side of things. I'm not going to compare them to Murray State. They're terrible in that sense, but they're not the top four program like I thought they'd be in the Missouri Valley.
Yeah, I think a lot of us expected or kind of penciled out some dark horses in the Missouri Valley at the beginning of the year, and I feel like a lot of us landed on Youngstown State.
Hmm.
Southern Illinois. call it collapse or lack of success this year, I think is surprising. But those two teams, at least for me, were two I kind of circled as, watch out. These teams could make a push and get to the playoffs, be in the top half
Yep,
or top four. And um, yeah, certainly not the case for them. But nonetheless, they're certainly not teams that are just going to roll over, as we saw in Youngstown.
exactly. Now, do you want to talk USD defense or offense first?
Either one, right? I mean, we can.
Hmm.
Yeah, you go first. I
Okay.
was just pulling it up, kind of the game flow of it. But yeah, you go ahead first with your thoughts.
Yeah, I'll start with the offense. I'm going to say this: it our score does not reflect what exactly could have should have happened. I felt like there was a lot of opportunities where we were very close. I think it was the second play of the game. Charles Pierre Jr. takes it off the right side. He had the biggest lane I have ever seen. The only problem was their DN pushed one of our tight ends. I can't remember. I don't think it was JJ, but one of the other two right back into him. And it caused Pierre Jr. to step on his foot, lose his footing. He never obviously got tackled,
Hmm.
but that touchdown 50-yard run that I saw was a 2-yard loss instead.
Yeah, the score definitely doesn't indicate the offensive success that we had, which is a weird thing to
No.
say, right? But um, to Youngstown's credit, we talked about this at length on Thursday. The
Hmm.
key for Youngstown to be competitive is to play keep away, and that's exactly what they did all first half, right? And so
Exactly.
it's weird. I think of our, on our two of our three first drives actually resulted in touchdowns, but we just didn't get those touchdowns until late in the second quarter because Youngstown did such a good job of keeping us on the field, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think they converted their first 5 third downs in those first two drives, and Bob mentioned at the presser this morning uh, as well. But yeah, they kudos to them. If that
Hmm.
was the game plan, which I'm sure it was, they executed about as well as they could have. But to that point, if you were to look up and say, "Oh yeah, we're going to score 2 touchdowns out of 3 drives," uh, that would be you'd be happy with that. So, uh,
Exactly. And
but
I it's crazy. That's where I think I had to walk you two off the ledge the most was the obviously only two drives. Really, we only had four drives in the first half.
hmm
One was a fairly decent drive that ended up being a punt, two touchdowns, and one. I mean, we were looking good, but my key players that I mentioned at the beginning or for the pregame let his guy through. Obviously not on purpose, but Aiden got smoked on his blind side mid pass. You're going to drop the ball every time on that. And
hmm
so, I mean, it was so close. Obviously, giving them the opportunity to go kick a field goal going into halftime was also tough.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you're exactly right. They played keep away. They kept the ball for a long time. I was trying to pull it up here, but the first drive, they got the ball 11 plays, 82 yards, 6 minutes. We score in 3 minutes, or excuse me, we punt after 3 minutes. Then
Hmm.
they score again, 13 plays, 81 yards, 8 minutes. And all of a sudden you're going, oh my gosh, we've touched the ball six, we've done 6 snaps and now it's 14-0 and there's only, you know, barely any time left in the first quarter after that. So that was where I
Exactly.
think that's where the alarm bells started to go off, right? For Mitch and I and maybe not as much you, but we were going, oh my gosh, we have to make something happen here quickly. And luckily we did. We responded right after that. So
Yep, exactly. And, Mitch brings up a good point. Watch him from home. Unfortunately, he can't join us because he's solo parenting for the night again. But settling for field goals is tough.
mhm.
One thing I think about when it comes to this is I think Coach Davis was playing with the playbook. This is your opportunity to try some things. You're away, you're in an uncomfortable situation. You should win the game. At the end of the day, he could have ran every play in the third, fourth quarter, and we would have won anyways, about the same score. I think he was tinkering with the playbook to see what he could do in preparing for later on in the season.
Yeah, I think there is. I think you also have to take a little bit different approach when you're on the road. Um, you want to kind of understand the game flow a little
Yep.
bit, and I think when Youngstown really controlled it early, points were going to be at a premium, right? Like I think that's where maybe we made some adjustments to think, okay, if we're only going to get so many possessions. I mean, right at one point we're on track to only get 8 possessions for the whole game, right? I think you have to
Yep.
be so careful with those possessions not to have any short 3-and-out type ones. So I think you're right. I think there's some adjustments there. Um, I will say to Mitch's point too on the offense, the 2 field goals in both situations felt really bad as well because one right out of the halftime we did a really
Yep.
nice drive all the way to it, and then really stalled out. I think if I look at it right, yeah, we had first and goal at the 6 yard line, had to settle for a field goal. So anytime you have to do that, every offense will tell you that's worst case scenario. And then unfortunately on the second field goal later in the game where it was a little bit more critical, and I was fine with taking the points there, of course.
Hmm.
To go up 10, late in the fourth. That was a that one's fine. But that first field goal, I agree with Mitch. That one hurt a little bit. You're thinking,
Yep.
gosh, we got to score here. But it did not it up at that point in the game. So it was an important field goal.
And I think this was definitely a learning point for Aiden, a learning point for the Missouri Valley. Youngstown State sold out on the run. Now, Charles Pierre Jr. still had over 150 yards rushing. We
Yeah.
did just fine on the rushing. I think we were over 200 yards rushing for the game, but they sold out. I saw 8, 9 guys in the box, and they just went to it. And, that's where we had a lack of success. But then they dared Aiden to throw once he got into the red zone, and we really didn't, which was surprising. You got to kind of change it up and do a little bit of everything. But we stuck to the run, and I think that came back to bite us a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's you know, recapping from Thursday again, we talked about it, right? It's like if you're USD, run the ball. This is one of the worst rushing defenses in the country. And if you're Youngstown, sell out on stopping the run because if you don't stop that, the game is over. So kudos to them
Hmm.
again, right? They sold out and said, we're not going to allow you to run the ball. And really, we didn't have a ton of running success in the first half, kind of blew open in the second half. It seemed like the running lanes were
Yep.
really there. Then they've kind of made some adjustments. But to your point again, uh, Bauman answered the bell for the most part. Super efficient game again, outside of the blindside fumble, strip sack, whatever you want to call it. I
Yep.
thought Bauman played excellent again. I mean,
Yes.
really, really played well. So, um, yeah, no, kudos to the offense. It is kind of funny. 27 points. They're wildly efficient with those 27
Hmm.
points. Outside of, I would say, the only blemish being that field goal we had to settle for.
Yep. Exactly. Now, on the other side, I have 3 letters written down. It's all I wrote down for the defense on the talking points.
Hmm.
I'm guessing you can figure those out, and I'm pretty sure any USD fan watching or listening can figure it out too. But RPO, that was brutal.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
it's a little scary.
yeah, it makes me nervous because there are 3 teams that I know for sure on the schedule that are going to be RPO heavy. I don't know about Indiana State because they're nobody. So I haven't studied them yet, but I've watched the other 3 play. They have quarterbacks that'll get out on the loose, and we need to figure out what we can do to stop that.
Yeah, I mean, not to discredit Youngstown, but to your point, the rest of the schedule, right? 4 teams remaining. To your point, I haven't watched a lot of Indiana State.
Hmm.
Obviously, we're a little bit more dialed in on what's kind of going on with the Dakotas as we naturally
Yep.
gravitate that way, right? But you're right. All 3 of those opponents, we're going to see heavy RPO. So we have to find a solution for that. I think you're exactly right. Youngstown took advantage of it, and I will say Youngstown's quarterback, is an outstanding athlete. I mean, if
Hmm.
there's any Youngstown folks that are not happy with his player performance, they may want to take a second look because he's maybe the only reason that this offense is doing what it's doing at I mean, I know they only ended up with 17 points, but in totality,
Hmm.
their offense is actually relatively efficient, and he's the main reason. Like, how many plays did he extend, even outside of RPOs, where what looked to be a for sure sack, and all of a sudden he's passing down the field for 12 yards and converting a third down, right? So there's a little, I
Exactly.
would say, the scrambling quarterback aspect and the RPO kind of go together, where again we're going to see that the rest of the way here, right? I know
Yep.
we're halfway through the conference schedule. Obviously, the way it shook out for us, this back half is going to be tough, right? I mean, you're going to see 3 opponents ranked in the top 10,
Yeah.
and all of those teams are going to do RPO. All of those teams have mobile quarterbacks. We'll have to find a solution quickly, and I know the coaching staff, it has to be priority number one for them right now too. So, um,
Yep.
I will say, I know since you brought up RPO, the other thing that is starting to become maybe a concerning trend, um, is kind of the slow starts we seem to have on defense. Um,
Yeah.
and really thinking, you hate to say it, thinking all the way back to the Northern State game, right? I mean, that very first drive against Northern State, they moved the ball no problem, ended up with 3, and
Yep.
then we settled in. Um, similar with Northern Iowa, right? They went down, scored 7,
Hmm.
followed it up with a field goal, and then we settled in. And then Youngstown, right? We look up and we're down 14-0, and they had their way with our defense on both drives.
Yes.
More to the point of, for all you analytics folks that like this, Youngstown's win probability halfway through the second quarter was 88%. It's 14-0,
Ooh.
and the win probability got all the way to 88%. So those are those slow starts cannot happen anymore. Right, for the
Nope.
next 4 games, if you go down 14-0 on Saturday, the game's over. There's no,
Yes.
if you go down 14-0 in Grand Forks, you're not digging yourself out of that.
No.
You go down 14-0 to number 1,
Yeah.
you're not digging, you know what I mean? You can't
Yep.
put yourself in that position against those 3 teams, right? And I don't want to turn it into a, overarching
Future.
future thing, but I
Yep.
think this game really exposed that, and that's where I have big concerns moving forward. Um,
Yep.
Now on the flip side of that, after we did settle in, we settled in, right? I mean,
Yes.
after the 10-minute mark in the second quarter, we gave up 3 points from there on out.
We won 27-3.
We won 27-3 after that first, horrendous
Mhm.
start, right? Just call it what it is. It was a horrible, horrible start.
Yep. And I'll be honest, I haven't seen tackling from this USD squad that bad since the Northern State game. And at least in the Northern State game, it was just the first or second quarter, and I think really just the first quarter. This one was halfway through the third, it kind of felt like up till that they were not tackling well at all. And that is probably the key contributor. The amount of times we had our hands on Bo or one of their running backs at the line of scrimmage or behind, and they still gained 5 to 15 yards
Mhm.
was infuriating. So that's something to also think about with this in the sense, was it as bad as it felt?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point, because I had that as kind of my notes as I was watching as well, is that this USD team has been tackling as good as any team in the country.
We're number
And
2 on PFF
I was just going to say, depending, I know some people
ratings.
hate PFF, but take it for what it's worth. Even if it's, like you said, no, if you're number 2 in the country, you're a good tackling team. And
As
then,
long as you're high ranked, take advantage of PFF. But if you're not high ranked,
yeah, that's
don't
right.
look at
Yeah, if
PFF.
your team's ranked high, it's great. If your team ranked low, it's trash, right? That's the way to do it.
Exactly.
But yeah, to your point, like all year long, we've talked about that. Like, this is one of the best tackling teams we've seen, like at all levels, right? DBs,
Mhm.
linebackers, DNs, like people aren't just not a lot of broken tackles, and that was Youngstown was the first game we saw quite a lot of broken tackles, and some at some pretty important and frustrating times too.
Yep, exactly. I think I'm hoping coaches are breaking out the donut pads, rolling those down the field, and having them working on their wrapping up. That's really where it was. It did feel like sometimes they got to a point where they just wanted to hit the crap out of them
Hmm.
because this game got unbelievably chippy.
Did.
Blew my mind how much. I will say it did feel like Youngstown was talking, but we didn't shut our mouths either.
No, and I to be honest, I like to see that, especially getting down 14-0. You mean you kind of got your
Hmm.
teeth kicked in right out of the gate, and it's kind of a it's kind of a motivating factor for both sides, right? For USD, it's going, okay, it's time to lock in. Like we're the
Yep.
better team. There's no reason we should be down 14-0. And for Youngstown, it gives them all the confidence in the world to say, what have we got to lose? We've won 2 games. We're at home, in front of our crowd on our
Mhm.
field. We're up 14-0. Let's keep after these guys. So
Yep.
it got chippy, which is good. There's going to be some games that are going to be chippy coming up in the
Yeah.
schedule.
You know, the perks, at least I don't think we're going to be as dumb as like what NDSU was when they shoved the starting quarterback for the opposing team as he ran down the field with his
Hmm.
back turn. We're not going to be cowards like that, but we're going to stand up and face the challenge. I will say I'm going to go the other way. You said you like it. I don't like it when an underdog gets chippy and you start barking back at them because it shows they're getting in your head.
Hmm.
And the moment you show a crack in the chain, they can expose it. And I think attitude definitely gets there. I think we settled in, and then you saw, like that Karan Adams roundabout. I think it was the fourth quarter where the Youngstown guy tackled him. I felt like he was a step out of bounds. Even tackled him, pushed him into the concrete track. He slid and ate it, and then he did the finger guns at him. Like we didn't do anything after that. We didn't get chippy with him.
Yeah, that it was kind of funny until you pointed out I didn't see the finger guns thing, which I know they're making a big point of in college football this year, right? We've seen it all
Which,
over where guys are getting flagged for, and NFL, right?
yeah,
But
I didn't see it. It was actually Mitch that pointed it out in the group.
oh, was it Mitch? Okay,
Yep.
gotcha. Yeah. So sorry, Mitch. Sorry, I got to give credit where credit's due. So Mitch pointed out
Exactly.
I didn't see that, and I just thought it was the late hit. It was close to the boundary. It's kind of hard to tell if it was close, but the play was over. So I think the ref probably didn't love the shove in the back or kind of shove in the side at the sideline. But certainly
Exactly.
the gun deal is something a point of emphasis. So then it really gives him the authority to throw it. But oh, Mitch did say yeah,
Okay.
it was a late hit call. So maybe that didn't have to do with it, but.
Which, yeah, I'm surprised, which is still a personal foul, but yeah, they are trying to crack down on those big time. And, I've seen some quarterbacks even do like a bow and arrow, and they get flagged for that now too, even. So they're really cutting down on the weaponry celebrations, which I
There's a
don't let the
fine line
quarterback do
somewhere
it.
between a gun and a bow and arrow, maybe a slingshot. I don't know if a slingshot will still work. Maybe
Exactly.
I don't know what the
Bart
line. I
Simpson
don't know
pull
where
it out
you
of the
draw the
back
line.
pocket.
Yeah, I don't know where you draw the line on the weaponry.
Exactly.
But
But no,
also too, one just funny comment, right? It's like, especially after that Adams catch, I don't know what it was, a 40-yard gain,
yep.
something to that effect. It's like, which is just wild to taunt somebody after they just put a 40-yard gain on you, which is
Exactly.
it's like, sure, late hit and then that. Okay, cool. We'll take the what turned into a 55-yard gain after the penalty. Yeah,
And the
please and
funniest
thank
part
you.
is he didn't even tackle Karan. He
No.
pushed him. He shoved him
Hmm.
really hard, and he got to the concrete track. And they're wearing cleats.
Oh
If
yeah, see it
anybody's
all the time.
walked across, yeah, if anybody's walked across concrete with cleats, to keep above your feet or you're eating it. And that's
Yeah,
exactly what happened.
yeah.
But I will say, they settled defense settled in. The team settled in. I can't remember if I've said it on here, but I remember telling you and Mitch, I think the biggest concern with USD football is that we have not been challenged.
Hmm.
And how are we going to respond to that challenge? Now, you can bring up the Wisconsin game. Yeah, we were challenged, but we were also challenged with like 7 minutes left in the game.
Yeah.
It's hard to it's hard to answer that bell with only 7 minutes left. So when Youngstown came out, punched, and they punched hard. They
Hmm.
came fired up and ready to roll. How's the team going to settle in? How are they going to go from there? Well, they won the rest of it 27-3. I think this game, the only way this situation could have gotten any better than just getting punched in the face and responding is having a bye week to go back, break it down,
Hmm.
and take that next step. But We got our adversity.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly right. We got challenged, we got our adversity. It's a kind of a double-edged sword too, right? Because you make a good point. After the horrendous start, the defense played fantastic. I would say,
Yep.
but it's also a little bit of the old adage of, other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play, right? Like that's the the other side of that coin, right? So
I
you
mean, we didn't
can't.
get shot in the head.
Yeah, no, no, certainly not that. Maybe not that, but it certainly felt, uh, it's just something that we can't have happen in the future. And I will say the only other thing that I had written down that kind of I don't want to say concerns me, but I was surprised that we didn't turn over Youngstown at any point. Um,
None. Felt
that's
like we were close a couple times too.
Yeah, and the reason I bring that up is again, you're coming up on some games where you're gonna have to play to Bob says it a lot. You have to play excellent football for all four quarters to win the football game, right? And I think for games upcoming for us, right? I'm referencing all the Dakota games, but yeah, I think you have to find turnovers in those types of games to swing momentum, especially if you're on the road, right? In Grand Forks, in Brookings, wherever it is,
Yep.
need some momentum. And so I'm hoping we see some of that, right? Whether it's forced
Hmm.
turnovers or doing some schemes that forces them into turning it over. I really think we need to see that. So I was a little disappointed to see no turnovers uh, on the defensive side of things at Youngstown.
This was the first game where it never felt like we were close to a turnover. I was
Hmm.
I was very impressed with Bo's decision making. He found his receivers. He set his feet on rollouts, which those are the ones that will come back to bite you. Is if you don't set your feet, especially rolling out the wrong direction and throw, you're throwing. It's going to get wild, and our defense is opportunistic. I don't even feel like we really had much of pass breakups even out there. There were some,
Yeah,
but
yeah. I now that you say that, I think really the only thing was we had what we thought was a strip sack, ended up calling it down before the ball came out. But outside of that,
which
I was gonna say, outside of that one, you're right. I don't remember another play where we go, oh man, we should have had that, or we had a
yep,
close, tip ball or um, something to that effect. So, uh, yeah, we'll see what adjustments get made here this week. Again, I know we're talking down a little bit, but ultimately, a road win in the Missouri Valley is a good win. There's no
a
ifs,
road
ands,
win
or
at
buts
a
about
place
it.
we've never won.
I know, yeah, exactly. A road win we've never won at. So, uh,
Hmm.
not to get too far away from the Youngstown conversation, but I texted you and Mitch, and I said, I always kind of split the season into three parts, right? It's you have your
Yep,
non-conference, you've got the first half of conference play and the second half of conference play. And at this point, in my mind, I never expect to win the FBS money game. I think it's kind of a cherry on top if you go out and win it, right?
yep,
But I never expect that win. So really, in my mind, we're perfect so far this season, outside of, you know, Portland State
yep,
bailing on us, right? So I mean that's the good news, right? We've taken care of business where we need to do it. However, we all know the way the schedule's setting up is that the biggest challenges are in front of us here in the next second half of the conference, which starts on
exactly.
Saturday.
I think we're allowed to be critical because we're fans.
For
We
sure.
went to
Yeah.
school there, we love it. But we're allowed to be critical. Now it's time. Let's talk about some good news. Let's keep it simple. Raise your hand if your team's still undefeated in Missouri Valley.
Right, exactly.
You
Right.
know,
You're 100% right. It's
all the lesser opponents have one loss at least in the Missouri Valley now.
mhm.
Cream of the
We do.
crop is at the top.
Yep, I was gonna say the conference is starting to separate itself. If you would have asked any Coyote fan, said, "Hey, it's week whatever week it is, week 8, you're 6-1." Everybody go,
Mhm.
"Sounds great." Right?
Yep.
Everybody would say, "Perfect. Let's go." So,
I mean, the way I think Mitch did kind of call this one a toss up, but he also thought Youngstown was going to be better than what they've been this season.
mhm,
So I think we're right on pace with like where Mitch and you were at the beginning of the season. Obviously, we're one game back from where I thought because I
right,
thought
right.
we still take Wisconsin. We were there,
Mhm.
but undefeated in Missouri. I think we have an opportunity, a great opportunity. The more I look at what we have, the better I feel. Now it's just about getting those guys healthy. I'm hoping Tice, Gase, and I guess you said that you saw some people talking about it, but I didn't see it, of Gary Bryant
Yeah, and
being dinged up.
I didn't see it firsthand in any film or anything.
Exactly.
I saw someone had posted about it, so I don't know if that's accurate or not. But yeah, that's another key. I think good news. We've been relatively healthy all year, and you're getting to the
Yep.
point of the year where it's just injuries are going to happen. You just hope that it's nothing serious. Um,
Yep.
I mean, since we're talking about the schedule, I think our bye week comes at a really nice time after Saturday, as far as
Yes.
getting healthy perspective and heading into a part of the schedule that's going to be tough.
Yep.
So,
All right.
uh,
So go ahead.
should we do some game balls?
Yeah, let's do it.
You
You
want to
can
go
start
first,
us
or would you
off
like?
too.
Gotcha. All right, I will. Sorry, let me pull open my notes here. I'll go with the offensive game ball. Um, it's hard, it's actually a hard decision. I had two of them down. I'm sure you'll grab the other one if I don't. But uh, I have to go with uh, Pierre Jr. Charles Pierre Jr.
Yep.
I mean, he at least to my knowledge, we didn't talk about this yet, but I was listening to the pregame with John Thayer before the game, and maybe it was pre-recorded, but I was under the impression that Tice was going to play at least in a limited role,
He was suited.
and then by the end, or at least by the end of the game, he was not in, or was not even suited up by
No,
the end of the game.
so
I don't know where that happened at, but regardless, he
yeah.
didn't end up playing, which I think was good. I think if there's any doubt of him not being 100%, we have all the capable running backs in the world
Hmm.
that we've talked about, right? I think the world of our running back room this year, I think it's the best one we've ever had. So for Charles to get 21 attempts, 154 yards, I will say the main reason that I say he gets the game ball is that 50-yard run for a touchdown. That
Yep.
felt like the turning point in the game where, at least to me, it felt like, okay, now this is our game now, right? This is where it really felt like it. I think it was 5:10 left in the third quarter. We went up 24-17. At that point, I felt like we had
Yep.
taken control with that big play, sucked the life out of the stadium. So that was an electric run. Um, and he really took responsibility in carrying the load, right? I mean, I know Jones Logan
Yep.
and LJ got in there, but 21 of the 35 carries for the game. So kudos to him.
Which I will say to the my only I mean, obviously there are some disappointments in the game, but the one that I think is I'm most disappointed in, I was really excited to see what LJ could do in an
Yeah.
expanded role, but only 3 carries for 5 yards. So I thought he'd get more. I don't know if I'm a huge fan of running Kendrick Jones Logan as a true running back. I know we ran a few of him behind Aiden. So yeah, that was shocking on that part. But I know everybody knows who I'm probably thinking of, and it's gonna be JJ Galbraith.
Yeah, that was my other
That
one as
guy,
well, of course.
yep. He continues to be electric, but a safety net. It's that fun in between. Not gonna say he's at the same level, but he really feels like a Gronkowski type of player.
Mhm.
You know, safety net. He can catch anything, but then he's also gonna go and get uh, a ton more yards on it too. So
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
it goes to JJ.
yeah, that's a good comment. He seems to be getting better and better, and actually, with his numbers from Saturday, he's now our leading receiver uh, on the season as well.
Yep,
So um, it seems like he's getting more and more opportunities, and he's taking full advantage when he gets the opportunities.
exactly. And kind of a secondary game ball. Karan Adams, he's
Yeah,
coming to be a part of the offense. He only had 2 touches, but he had 78 yards on those 2 touches, plus an additional 15-yard penalty added on to it.
right.
So,
Yeah, yeah,
you know what? I'll take that. He almost matches JJ's. I think he goes right over JJ's total yards in the game. So I do like that they're getting him more involved in the offense, and he's truly what I think is the missing piece for what this offense can explode into the next level on.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've got a lot of good pieces from the skill position perspective, so it's nice to see multiple guys getting involved. And like we said, you go from 1 week to where we don't see Adams, and then all of a sudden, huge play,
Uh-huh.
there. So, but well, let's switch it to defense. I'll let you go first
Yes.
since I went first on offense.
It's gonna have to be Dennis Shorter. Dude was an animal. I was a little disappointed in his tackling in the first quarter. Shorted up a ton, and this guy, I don't know how he isn't just wrapped up in a body cast with the way he throws his body around. I don't know if what they have a personalized tub for him of just ice and water for every game. Maybe that's just where he spends all of his time after the games for the week, and they just pull him out of the ice bath when it's done. But that dude will put anybody in the ground.
Oh yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. I think to say he was all over on Saturday. I think he led the team with total tackles at 7. I think all of them being solos. If I'm looking at it correctly, 2 pass breakups. He was everywhere, which again, you
Yep.
you expect that from one of your leaders on defense, which is good to see for sure.
Yep. Exactly.
So, um, I guess I will go. I say Shorter was one of mine, but I've got a couple of them. But I'm gonna go with Grace on this one. I thought again he was at
Yes.
critical times. I know we said, Washington's quarterback got out of the pocket a lot. I thought Grace did a pretty good job of keeping him bottled up at times. I mean, there were some times where he, he was beat to the corner, but
Bo's
Grace was
fast.
most fast, right? And I was going to say, and
Yeah.
Grace was assigned with a lot of kind of containment work with him, excuse me. Um,
Yep.
so I thought he did a great job. He ended up with the forced fumble. Um, I believe, or maybe it wasn't ultimately ruled a forced fumble or not. I
It
couldn't
wasn't a
remember,
fumble.
but
No.
okay. So,
It was
um,
close.
but nonetheless, I know he had a sack and a tackle for loss on the day as well, especially late in the
Yep.
game when we were really coming into crunch time. So that's good to see. That I mean, both players that we named are good players. We're going to see that a lot. But overall, a little bit harder to pick the defensive player of the week this year because it was kind of a combined effort
Yeah.
from the defense,
Exactly.
right? And a little bit of pull yourself up by your bootstraps after that first quarter type situation. So,
Yep.
kind of an honorary game ball, if you will, to the defense for bouncing back, and then after a alarming start, really played some of their best football. They're out. So
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's a perfect way to describe it. And now I will say we got some fantastic film to study for the team,
hmm
and we're going to shore it up, get healthy because we got a big one coming. I am doing a little foreshadowing just so everybody is aware for what's coming this week, but like always, is a Coyote State.
absolutely, yeah. I was gonna say, who do we play this week? I can't remember.
And some bunny. Don't. No offense, Kyle, if you're still here, but we're going from one dumb mascot to another,
Yeah.
and then a third one right after that with the trees. So,
That's right. Yeah, when it comes to mascots, there's no lack of interesting mascots in the summit, right? Salukis, penguins, bunnies. I mean, we got all sorts of them.
yep, there he is. He's
There's
still here.
Kyle. Yeah, he's still here. He knows. So, but
All right,
well,
perfect.
no, Zay. Unfortunately, I won't be joining you for Thursday. I'll be out of the
S-
country on
Sipping
vacation.
mai
So,
tais on the beach.
yep, down in Mexico for a buddy's wedding. So I won't see you guys Thursday. But as I told you before, I have a lot to say. I'll probably do some tweeting. Maybe you and I will jump on and do a pre-record before I hit on my flight or something like that. But
No, we're expecting you to download the app and look like Kyle did last week on a beach sipping mai tais. We're expecting you red faced, whether it's you're drunk or you're uh, it's sunburnt. One or the other. Everything's
yeah,
gonna happen.
yeah, maybe both. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe I will pop in on Thursday. We just never know. We'll keep a surprise.
All right, perfect. You got anything else?
No, that's all I have.
Okay.
As usual, go Yotes.
Go Yotes. We'll catch you guys later.